Here we are, it's 2023, and I'm sure many of you are starting to get ready to take your OET. Well, you've come to the right place because today we'll be looking at how you can pass the OET in 2023. So the very first thing you want to do is to download the OET Goal Setter, which you can get for free by clicking the link in the description of this video. In this goal setter, you can write in daily and weekly OET preparation goals, and there's also a checklist where you can put in more specific tasks that you should complete before test day. Throughout this video, we're going to fill in a lot of this goal sheet, so I highly recommend you download it, print it out, and fill in yours as we go. In this video, we're going to be looking at 9 things you can do in 2023 to make sure you get the score you need on test day. And I'm going to show you the most up-to-date, high-quality resources you can use to prepare properly. Now, you might be planning on taking your OET in a few weeks, in a few months, or maybe even late this year. Whenever that is, you're going to want to be prepared. So the first thing you want to do is set clear goals. So this takes a few steps. First, identify the score you want. Then, figure out where you are now. You can do this easily by taking a mock test. If you're at a C and you need to get to a B, for example, then you need to figure out what it will take to reach your desired score. Only you will know what it is you need to do to get that desired score. But here are a few examples that you could write down. For writing, it could be do 1 writing practice task every week. As I said, getting feedback from a mock test or from a teacher is the best way to find out what exactly your goals should be. But you might think of more as you watch this video, so let's keep going. My next tip is to make sure that you fully understand the test. You want to know exactly what to do on test day. The last thing you want is to be trying to figure out what the test is asking you to do while you're taking the test. For example, when you see part A of the reading test like this, do you immediately know what to do and how to find the information you need? Or for a multiple choice question like this one, are you familiar with how to eliminate the incorrect options to find the right one? The best way to understand the test from top to bottom is to get access to a large amount of practice questions so that when you see a question on test day, you're not wasting time figuring out what you need to do. My recommendation is to check out e2testprep.com. We have hundreds of high-quality practice questions on all parts of the test. Even if you're familiar with the test, you're still going to want to practice. So definitely write somewhere in the checklist section of the goal setter, find and complete practice questions. My next tip is to get help. It's very important to find some allies before you take your test, to find people who can help you improve. Now, there are a few ways you can do this. You might know a good OET teacher who you can get in touch with. But there are also some great places you can go on the internet. Of course, our E2 OET YouTube channel is a great place to start. We've got a lot of helpful videos there that will give you good advice. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're looking for more teacher interaction, though, you can check out our website and register for one-on-one tutorials with one of our expert teachers. You might even have some friends who have taken the test. It's definitely worth asking them for preparation advice. This next tip is important. Build strong reading and listening habits. If you're in a situation where you're not using the language regularly, this is going to have an impact. In fact, it's usually one of the first things I ask my students about when I start teaching a class. Now, if you use English regularly in your work or in school, then this might not be a priority. But if your scores are currently around a C or lower, building these habits can help a lot. Reading and listening really help in all areas. The more regularly you are exposed to authentic and accurate language forms, the faster you will improve. Proficient users of English use a wide range of internalized habits to make their ideas clear. They stress certain words, they clarify ideas with specific phrases in writing and speaking. You definitely want more exposure to this. The more exposure you have to this, the faster you'll begin to internalize those structures and words. My advice for building reading habits is this: read the news. This could be the BBC News or Al Jazeera English. Both websites have a robust health section and even some longer articles on topics related to health and science. Newspapers or news apps have articles on health which will expose you to a wide range of useful language. You can even read more about fun topics like sports, food, or lifestyle. All of these topics could be helpful in preparing for the OET. Lots of students try to memorize lists of vocabulary, and well, if that helps you, that's fine, but I would always prioritize strong reading habits as they are going to help improve your overall reading speed, comprehension, as well as vocabulary and grammar range and accuracy for your speaking and writing. Trying to memorize words out of context doesn't help as much. As for listening habits, here's my advice. Listen to news radio or podcasts. I strongly recommend checking out the BBC, CBC, that's in Canada, or ABC National Radio, which is Australian. I find that the announcers at these companies have the most professional and clearest pronunciation. They'll model sentence stress and intonation in a very intentional way. And I definitely recommend the CBC podcast, White Coat, Black Art. For anyone in the medical field, the link is in the description. Now, if you're looking for another good podcast, my first recommendation would be to check out our podcast, Everyday English with E2. They're short and have lots of great ideas on how to make small improvements to your English so you can pass your test in no time. I'd definitely put this into the checklist on the goal sheet. Listen to the Everyday English with E2 podcast, and maybe White Coat, Black Art. Also, one thing to listen for in podcasts or the radio is something called sentence stress. I often find it's a big hurdle in pronunciation for students. Now, let me be clear, it's not about accent. It's about stress and intonation. You don't have to sound like a Canadian or a Brit or an Aussie or an American, but to make your ideas clearer and more precise, you will need to emphasize words in a deliberate way if you're aiming for a higher score. We have a video all about pronunciation here on our OET YouTube channel. I highly recommend watching it before you start preparing for your speaking test. If I were you, I'd write this into the checklist in the speaking section of the goal setter. Watch OET Speaking, How to Show Empathy Effectively on YouTube. The more you listen to sentence stress in podcasts and on the radio, and of course the more you practice using it, the faster you'll integrate it into your own speaking, and the more naturally you'll be able to use it on test day, which will allow you to show empathy, which is necessary for that higher score. So building these habits is super important. Even just 10 to 15 minutes every morning can make a big difference. Let's move on. Next tip, learn from your mistakes. This is one of the most important things for OET. If you make a mistake, don't get upset, don't feel annoyed, look at the error, figure out why it happened, internalize the lesson. And this is for all parts of the test. If it's the reading test and you get a question wrong, figure out why you were wrong and understand why the right answer is right. Every time you take a practice test, review the mistakes and maintain strong reading and listening habits, and you're probably going to do better on the next test. Now for speaking, you could probably write this into your goal checklist. Get feedback, then review and practice feedback. It's hard to learn from your mistakes if you don't know what they are, and that's where teacher support comes in. As for writing, if your teacher is like me, then you're going to get lots of red-colored feedback. In this case, look at the feedback and figure out how to stop doing whatever it is that you shouldn't be doing, or how to start doing whatever it is that you aren't doing. If you aren't organizing your ideas clearly, focus on that. So if you are making grammar mistakes in your writing, you might put into your goal setter, write one task every week, get feedback, reduce errors by 50% in 3 weeks. And of course, you might have to do a fair amount of work to accomplish that. But of course, writing it down is the first step in reaching that goal. And this leads to our next point. Improve grammatical accuracy. Now, this one can be a big challenge, grammatical accuracy. And it's not something that you're going to fix in one day, but in a few weeks, you can improve a lot. I want you to look at something. This graph comes from research done by Heidi Dulé, Marina Burt, and Stephen Krashen. This is a graph showing the acquisition of the basic English grammatical functors. A number of studies have been done looking at English acquisition by native speakers and second language learners. And when it comes to grammatical accuracy, they found a few interesting patterns. First of all, when anyone is learning English, they don't learn it correctly and instantly. In fact, grammatical accuracy is acquired over time. That means that they consistently improve their accuracy with time, input, output, and even a little feedback. So think about this very basic grammar structure, the third person singular. If you're a native speaker child or an adult English learner, you'll probably start by formulating it incorrectly. But over time, you'll start to say it correctly sometimes. And this frequency will increase until you're mostly formulating it correctly, at which point it is acquired or internalized. So it's not about understanding or studying the correct structures. It's about acquiring them or internalizing the correct usage. Now, I know what you're thinking. Third person singular, that's super basic. Well, yes and no. Your brain often knows it, but your mouth doesn't. So how do you acquire it faster? Well, the more you read and listen and the more you practice, the sooner you will produce the correct forms. In fact, over on our General English channel, E2 English, we have a lot of videos covering important grammar points for the speaking test, past simple, indefinite articles, and more. Here's one video I recommend checking out. It's all about that third person singular grammar point that I just mentioned. And in it, I cover a lot of the more technical aspects of how to use it. Write this down in the speaking section of your goal sheet. Watch Avoid This Mistake in Your English Speaking Test on YouTube. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to the E2 English channel. Those videos will help you not just review the grammatical rules, but help you think about how to practice using them in a meaningful way that will help you fully internalize the language. Check them out. Next tip, get deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is when you have a specific goal in mind with your study time. Let's imagine you sit down with your writing feedback. The feedback says you're making mistakes with your subject-verb agreements, and you look at your writing and you find your mistakes. You then take actions to fix this thing. You rewrite the sentences correctly. You review the grammar rules. You make new sentences using that grammar and maybe get someone to check them. You can also do this with your vocabulary. I would write something like this into the goal setter. Improve grammatical precision. Ensure past simple and third person singular are clear. Practice using them out loud daily. Let's move on to the next tip, and I know you're gonna love this one. Sleep. That's right, sleep. You like this one, don't you? Well, it's true. You need to get as much sleep as you can. First of all, sleep is what allows your brain to transfer memories from the short-term to long-term memory. Now, I know that many of you medical professionals are very busy, but do try to make sure that you are optimizing your sleep. Also, on test day, you want to be well rested. They have even done studies on the effect of sleep on academic performance. Surprise, surprise, the group that gets a good night of sleep does better on their memory recollection task. In the description of this video, I've put a link to my favorite TED Talk by Matt Walker about the importance of sleep. Okay, here's the final piece of advice. Stay positive. Don't beat yourself up about forgetting things or about making the same mistakes again and again. This is normal. Anytime I make a mistake in one of the foreign languages I speak, yes, of course, sometimes I get annoyed, but most of the time I remind myself that I'm getting better. I'm better than I was before, and I just need to review that mistake again, and hopefully I'll remember it this time. Every time you get mad at yourself, you just make it harder to learn. Every time you make a mistake, it's actually an opportunity to improve. Decide how you respond, and you'll decide how quickly you improve. Well, there you go, that's it. Those are our top tips for getting the score you want in 2023. Of course, I highly recommend checking out e2testprep.com. It has everything you need for OET preparation, including mock tests, practice questions, and tutorials. You can even sign up for free if you like. Anyways, that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss all of our new 2023 videos.